everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bad Catholic Dads podcast. I'm one of your hosts, John Perez, and returning from Disneyland, my good friend, Derek Rogers. How's it going, Derek?
Fantastic. I'm so happy to be back from this and doing podcasts once again.
Yes. Okay, before we get into anything, Derek, last time we left off, we talked about vacations. We talked about you going to Disneyland and Universal and Florida and everything. So I'm dying to hear, dude. Fill me in, recap the audience, everything. Don't spare any details. You know what I mean? Hey, what's up, everybody? John here. Just letting you guys know, the Disneyland trip Derek and I are about to talk about takes about 20 minutes. So if you would like to skip it and go straight to the podcast topic about newborns, please skip to 19 minutes and 33 seconds. That is 19 minutes and 33 seconds is when we start the podcast. But honestly, like, Derek talks about his trip and how amazing it was, and it's super interesting. But again, if you would like to skip the kind of banter at the beginning about our vacations, Derek's Disneyland trip, please skip to 19 minutes and 33 seconds. If not, enjoy.
I won't take that long. I mean, that would be a lot to fill in, but like,
Give us the highlights.
You know, it was really cool to, first of all, we were trying to figure out a way to tell my kids because we hadn't figured out how we were going to do that. And what we ended up doing was like right at last second, we had packed up everything. They knew we were going on a trip, but they didn't know where. And my daughter, who's just learning to read and write, I was like, honey, we need to leave a note for the neighbors so they know where we're going. And she's like, okay. And it was like right at the end, I'm like, come here and write down what I'm going to say.
Oh,
so
yes.
I spelled out to her, you know, and she didn't sound it out, but I spelled out, we are going to Disney World. And she wrote that out. I'm like, okay, good. Now help me sound it out. And so when she did it, it was really priceless, her reaction. I took a picture. I thought I was filming it, but for some reason it didn't film all the way through.
No.
But I did get the pictures of her like joy in her eyes. So that became awesome. our banner that we flew in we taped it to our car.
Yes,
window.
I did see that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that was really good. And having a long car ride is about 12 hours.
Okay.
It was really good because Bethany got to talk to her mom. She gave feedback on our podcast, which is awesome. I got to talk to my mom and got feedback on and some stuff
cool.
too. So it was cool to know that both of our parents like to get some of this feedback. And, my mom had cried for the Mother's Day episode in a good way.
That's
and
awesome.
She said it was really good.
Praise
and,
God.
And then with the 13 Reasons Why podcast, Bethany's mom had just different insights about how difficult it is sometimes with a teenager when your kid doesn't want to listen to you, no matter how much you try to ask them about things. And she was just expressing how sometimes that's difficult, even though you want to do that as a parent, you can't do it all the time. And it was really good to hear those viewpoints because for us, we don't know that pushback yet. Our kids, they will eat when we tell them to. And if they don't, we send them to bed and they have to stay in their crib, but now, and then when they get teenagers, who knows what happens. Man. It was good to hear that kind of viewpoint from it, and
that's awesome.
It was nice because it's a long car ride. We got to listen to musicals while we were driving, and there was just a lot of good things. That whole trip, my kids were so good just driving there. We were really blessed. We got to say a rosary for a bunch of things, so it was really good. We got a lot of things out of the way while we were driving.
Very nice.
Our first stop, we stopped at this hotel, which is really good. Dude. It was annoying though. Like anyone who's gone out renting a hotel, we had some it was like late at night. We're like, okay, we're tired. We're gonna finish this trip. We broke it up into halves.
Yeah.
We had some noisy neighbors. Let's just say.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh!
Oh gosh!
It was.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I might have. They might be my neighbors in our apartment.
Oh my gosh, dude! It was just like I was just glad my kids passed out right away. Because you're like sharing a whole. It was just like, oh, okay, that's what we're having. Yeah. But the rest of the trip, we didn't have any problems with any noisy neighbors, so that was really good. And we got to this hotel. My parents did. It was basically, in short, a timeshare for this hotel that they got. It was the Embassy.
Did all you guys arrive at the same time, or was it kind of like sporadic?
Right near the same time.
Cool.
They had visited some family that was on Florida. Oh my goodness, John. It was the most beautiful hotel. It was like they had an indoor-outdoor pool with a TV, like a big movie screen outside. They were showing Alice in Wonderland. They had happy hour, John, 5 to 7, free drinks, heavy snacks, 5 to 7 every day. And there was no one there because it was getting ready for the Memorial Day weekend. No one was there. We went out to go eat at one point. They had a video game bar. I had never seen a video game bar.
You've never been to one before?
Life.
Those are so cool. There's one in DC. We'll have to go.
The games are free. You have a cover
cool.
rate when you go in, and you can play for free. It was like we don't have enough time to enjoy Florida,
right?
But and then the first day we went to the Magic Kingdom, and it was awesome.
Man, so cool.
It was so cool. My kids were so fantastic in the whole thing. We rented a electric wheelchair for my wife, so she was able to cart around, and that helped a lot with
awesome.
Just because we had the double stroller, which for any parent that has 2 kids or more, even 1 kid,
oh man, we don't
get
have
a
that.
double stroller.
We don't
man.
have that.
That's the way to go. We had that, and they were good. I mean, my daughter went on Splash Mountain. She went on all the big rides that she could, and it was weird to have your own kid riding in the front of Splash Mountain with you. It was just such a strange feeling, and it was really a great time. It rained midway through, and it cleared out the place a lot, which was really nice for us. But it was awesome. I got to hang, we got to hang with my family too, and they were able to help with some of the kids, and there's just a lot. So the next day we went to Gatorland, which is
that's right.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, we got to eat alligator meat and stuff.
What does that taste like? It's like chewy, right?
Yeah,
From what I hear.
it's like a lobster, shrimp, fishy tasting chicken, I guess is a
Yeah.
way to put it.
Yeah.
It's very salty, at least the way they had cooked it for us. The next day we went to Universal Studios, and Universal Islands, and we got to do all the Harry Potter stuff. That park is definitely for the older kids, for sure. But my kids, they went on the Kong Skull Island ride with me.
Oh, nice.
But the thing is that the waiting line, some of the lines are so good. This one freaked my kids out, really bad, because they had all the natives and they had all the corpses on the walls and stuff like that. It was intense.
Were your kids scared or no?
Yeah. My daughter was crying, but I was like, "You'll make it through. It'll be okay."
Yeah. Just close.
So
your
they got
eyes.
to see King Kong attacking us in 3D. I mean, what other that was such a great way to end. But they rallied from that. We went to the Harry Potter place, and that was so much fun too.
And then it just got upgraded a couple years back, right, with Diagon Alley.
That's what I heard. Like when I was talking to people that had gone before,
Uh-huh.
they were saying oh no, Hogwarts Express wasn't moving at all. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so cool to go from park to park like that.
No way. Yeah. When we went in, 2013, 2012 maybe, and
So
it was just maybe a couple years built already.
Yeah.
And it was just the Hogwarts and the train moves now.
Yeah, it drives from one side to the other. So you go from Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade.
Yeah.
And it's an interactive train ride. So you sit in these little compartments, and it's like an interactive show where out the window you can see all the stuff that's happening outside.
Dude.
And then on the inside of the train, you can look and there's shadows of you can see the chocolate frogs jumping on there, the Dementors, or any of the Harry Potter figures they're walking by. And sometimes, the creatures like the little rat climbs underneath the chair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just really fun stuff.
Is there a cart lady going by? Do you want any candy or anything like that?
Yeah, but not
cool.
like an actual one. It's
Okay,
part
just
of the ride.
yeah.
But it's a cool way for them.
Cool.
It was just brilliant marketing. They were able to sell tickets to both parks because you can't do it unless you have tickets to both parks, which is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And just breaking our wallet, but it was worth it.
So worth it.
The Diagon Alley part where Harry Potter buys all the stuff was amazing. They did such a great job. My wife loved it. We were drinking the butter beer.
Yeah. Did you have it liquid or frozen?
We did it the liquid. I heard that was the way you had to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the purist, it's liquid, but dude, frozen is, I think, a better way to go. It's awesome.
We tried all the different types of it, and the one we came to the conclusion was the liquid.
Okay, cool. We did. Yeah, I like the frozen last time. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
it's interesting. It for some reason it just tasted differently, but everything was so amazingly just the detail was incredible. Yeah. We had shown my kids the first episode. We didn't watch all of it, but they had an idea of what was going on.
Oh, the movie?
Yeah, so we did that right before we went, the night before. That was kind of the transition, and I'm really glad we did that. But again, my daughter went on the Jurassic Park Splash Mountain kind of ride, which was really awesome. And they just we went on the Incredible Hulk, all those rides. It was great. And then we went to the beach the next day, and it was nice to have that kind of thing. It was something my wife really wanted to do. But I will say, like,
oh, hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof. I started having the color wheel of death, but I'm good. We're good.
You wait for what? Your new Xbox or
no, the Mac? Yeah, that's right. No, the Mac.
The one thing that was one of my favorite highlights was going to mass on Sunday. Bethany found a church, St. Teresa of Avila, which was really cool to find our daughter's namesake church right there in Orlando. And it was weird because this is the first time I've been to a Catholic church where they had the projection screens on the left and right for like the lyrics of the songs.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, as a parent holding a kid where I can't hold the missalette or the hymnal, it was so awesome to actually read the lyrics for the songs while I'm holding my kids. Like at first I'm like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then it was cool because everyone else in the congregation is singing too. Like I was like, wow, everyone's kind of participating. And it was really an awesome thing to add to it. The very, very cool thing, because it was Memorial Day weekend, their last song was God Bless America, and then they had a medley of all the armed forces songs. So they had, the Marines, Army, Air Force, everything, Navy. And they sang it as a choir. And I will tell you, I had not teared up in a mass for a very long time. And this was the first time that I was like emotionally like moved right at the end of the mass of just seeing the beauty of the universal church. We can be in Orlando, but still know, like we're at a church, and it's just everything that I know.
Sure.
And then you have it where it's honoring the country and Memorial Day and them singing the songs, and everyone seemed just into it. And there was such a great spirit around in that church where I was like, I was emotional. I was shook. And it was really great to have that feeling. And it's really interesting that after all the crazy things we did, the Catholic Mass was the high point.
Oh, that's awesome. Of course. Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
But just a couple things. Tips for parents, all right?
Okay, let's go.
Get yourself a DVD player for your car, all right? One that you can plug in and the kids can watch in the back.
Do you guys have a van? What do you guys have?
We have a minivan.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a
and
Honda.
it doesn't have a DVD player in it? Or
No.
So you just have
one of those,
the portable ones?
I don't know. Yeah, portable thing that has two screens. So it's attached by USB port, USB. And my daughter now, thank goodness, she's 6 and she's old enough to control it, so we don't have to climb back there after each movie. We can kind of give them a selection of DVDs and she'll turn it on. And my goodness, my son was so good. Like that helped the ride so much. And the other thing, get an app for any theme park you're going to. Get one of those apps that tell you how long the lines are.
What?
You just bring it up. I can check right now, and I can tell you that Pandora, the ride at Animal Kingdom, is probably a 3-hour wait.
Real quick, how was Pandora?
Didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
John,
I thought you guys were doing it. Okay.
We were going to do it.
But the lines.
The line started at 1 a.m. in their cars outside of the park at 1 a.m.
Wow. That's insane.
And it was a 2 to 4 hour wait to get into the park, into the main park. And the line wrapped around.
Wait, so it's just getting into Animal Kingdom or just the Pandora?
No, getting into Animal Kingdom on that opening day, there was a line to get into the park, like the main theme park.
Do you think it's
you had to get in a line to wait in a line is basically what had happened.
Oh my gosh.
I was looking up some write-ups from people that actually went. It was a 1 to 3 hour wait to get to the concession stands and the rides. It was unbelievable. And watching on this app, just the line would grow. It sounded like a nightmare.
Do you think it'll be like that all summer, or what do you think?
From what I've seen, because it's been fun looking back, like each day checking like how lines are, it looks like it's just going to be continually like almost a 2 hour wait for a while.
Okay.
Like sounds like it's going to bring that
just to get in. That's crazy.
Well, I think that main line, but getting on the rides is what I'm talking about. It's going to be 2 hours now to get on one of the rides. So we're like, maybe in the future we'll go, but I didn't want to push it.
I'll have to let my in-laws know, or actually one of my in-laws listen to this podcast. They're going in a couple of weeks, the start of July, and man.
Get there early. Use your fast passes. That's what I would say. And that's the other thing. Get to know what fast passes are. When you buy a ticket for your family, you get automatically 3 fast passes. Use those for the rides that are going to be longer, whether it be, Space Mountain, a Splash Mountain, any of those bigger rides. But use that app, man. That app was awesome because you can plan out like, oh, it closed up because for whatever thing it's temporarily closed. We're going to keep an eye on it. When it opens up, the line is so short, the app's going to tell you everything about that. And you can kind of go from, you might walk more in the park, but you're going to save more time and get on more rides. It was awesome to have it. Universal has a great one. Disney has, I think, a better one that works better than Universal's. But that was it. Yeah.
Dude.
And if you're pregnant going, get a wheelchair. Upgrade to that electric.
Nice.
We
We
started off with the regular push one, and then I'm like, this is gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Like we have a long day, so it's like, and Bethany had fun just driving that thing around. She did really great. So
how was driving with your wife?
It was good. She was driving. She has bronchitis, and she has this thing now when she coughed, like it blew out her rib.
Oh my gosh.
So she drove a little bit in the opening, and then I just drove the rest of the thing because it was just like, it was too much for her. And she was just, somewhat uncomfortable. Again, we're right at 38 to 39 weeks right now.
Yes.
And the other thing to help to help with time, the women's lines for anywhere, it seems to be always so long for restrooms.
Yeah. It's always like that anywhere you go.
For the dads, do everyone a favor. You just change your kids. Take them to the men's room, change them. And I'll tell you what, like the camaraderie between dads in a changing restroom, because most of the restrooms has changing tables. It's so awesome. Everyone is just like, everyone was so nice. And they're like, oh yeah, dude, I'll move out of the way. Like here's it. Like there was, every time that I had, changed blaze and everything, I was like, everyone is like, there's like this code or something around that I never knew of in like the changing restrooms for these babies, and it was like, it was so cool to see. They're like, oh yeah, I remember when I was doing this too, like, good luck with everything. And it was such a cool camaraderie. I absolutely loved it. Nice. It was really good. So other than that, man,
dude, that sounds like a blast.
And make sure, and the final thing, make sure you figure out like a mass that you can go to. If it's a Sunday, you don't take a vacation from God, like you got to still do that. And to me, I was so glad that we did that. It was just one of my highlights of the whole week.
That's awesome.
It was really good. But yeah, it was a fantastic trip. We knew that it was really good because once we came home, we're like, let's do that again. It wasn't like pulling teeth. So
hey, we're going to go in a couple of years, man.
Like, so when are we doing this, John?
Dude,
when are we doing
2020 or 2021. Let's go.
2021, that's a long ways away. That's when like that's the 8th season of Game of Thrones or something, man. That's a long time.
The 8th season of Game of Thrones. I don't know, we'll see. Like, because like I was so inspired like by your trip, and then our in-laws, like huge family reunion trip to Disney World and Universal this summer. And my wife and I were debating on going, and not last minute, but for a while we kind of like, I don't think we can go. Because one, we took so much time off for the new baby for our daughter, and so that means less leave, but also our kids are kind of like too young to enjoy it at this moment,
Yeah.
In all honesty, like we could bring them, but they wouldn't remember, or it wouldn't be as fun, So we're like, okay, couple more years, like we'll wait. James will be, I think, 4 or 5. Lucy will be 3 or a year younger. And then I think by then they'll go crazy, but I don't know. We'll see.
Once you get like past that 36 inches height thing, like they can go on so many things.
Okay.
Like if you can get them to 40 or 44 inches.
There's another tip right there. Okay.
Yeah. Like, check the heights of the rides and measure your kid beforehand. That way you'll kind of have an idea, So
cool.
Yeah. Like it was really good. Oh, and for bad Catholic dads, I did some major advertising.
Yes.
I took our business cards,
yes.
right? Every rest stop, anywhere that I could, man. I was like putting these cards everywhere. Like there's some in Disney right now. There's some in Universal.
Like dads in Disney, yay.
Trashy hotels with loud neighbors. I like slipped one under the door.
Yeah, that's funny. That's good.
But they're everywhere, man. I went to confession a couple days ago. Put some in that church. It's been going. I'm running out of cards.
Oh, hey, let me know. We'll have to order some. Actually, yeah, I'll order some more because, we have a little bit of a budget for things. So
yeah, it's just fun, man. If you see a bad Catholic dad's card, tell us where you found it, and
we'll shout you out on the show.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Anything else from your trip before we get into the show?
We were just really blessed.
Yeah,
and we were talking about that in the car, like. Just to have healthy kids and a vehicle that can go and money to actually spend on a vacation. Like we know we're really blessed, and we didn't take it for granted for sure. And I every day I'm talking to my kids just so they don't forget it. I'm like, hey, remember when we loved you and we took you to Disney? Don't forget, because it'll feel like I wasted my money. No, we got enough.
Or like
pictures.
you owe us one day. Yeah,
we got enough pictures of it, and to be honest, riding on the front of Splash Mountain with my daughter was awesome. One of the highlights. Just being like,
awesome. What
is going on with my life? I have a kid big enough to go on Splash Mountain. It was really awesome.
That's great, dude. Good for you guys. And that is I mean, I saw pictures I saw status updates. I saw it was great. Just following it online and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and that was cool too. Like we weren't really on social media while we were there, and it was when we came back, we put pictures up, you know, and that was just kind of nice too, just to like have the phones off, you know, except for if you're taking pictures of, you know, but not like. It was kind of fun just being away from that. So yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, go listen to our episode last week for vacations and stuff like that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Bad Catholic Dads, a podcast that posts every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We are Bad Catholic Dads, where we help Catholic fathers so they can have a place digitally to hang out with other Catholic fathers who have the same struggles, so we can build a community of Catholic dads who can relate to each other and help each other grow and hopefully empower like-minded fathers to keep going forward. If you like anything from us here at Bad Catholic Dads, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Bad Catholic Dads. If not, don't worry. The podcast is free. Check out the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play, as well as our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Bad Catholic Dads. A couple business items before we get into the podcast, Derek. Vlog going strong. Episode 3 just posted this past Friday. Please join us on this adventure of building a house, the joys, struggles, ups and downs. It's authentic, and hopefully it'll bring a smile to your face. I mean, kids do that pretty easily, especially my kids. I'm kind of biased on that one. The first episode launched on Friday, May 19th. 3 episodes in. Remember, only $3 a month gets you into the vlog. Don't miss out. It's on patreon.com/Bad Catholic Dads. And of course, this Tuesday is the inaugural episode of the Bad Catholic Dads book club discussion, aka Bad BCD Squared is what we're calling it. It's Tuesday, June 6th at 9 a.m. Our first book is called Dad is Fat by Jim Gaffigan. Derek has finished the book. I'm sure he liked it. What I'm reading right now is fantastic. So hopefully you'll join us if you've read the book. If not, read the book and then come back to the episode. It's kind of our review, reflections, what we liked, what we didn't like about it. So check that out at Bad Catholic Dads. So any other business items that you want to talk about, Derek, before we get into it?
No.
All right. So, Derek, we needed an episode for today. It's been, 2 weeks since we last got together?
It's true. Really
right before your
trip.
It was like right before your trip. We got a couple episodes recorded. We recorded the 13 Reasons Why episode, and then we recorded the vacations episode. So we're back at it, kind of live-ish, because last week we recorded on the back end of 13 Reasons Why. So this episode is kind of I wanted to do something kind of fun, interesting, kind of relevant to the book we're reading as well, but just kind of like a micro kind of look into it. It's kind of relevant for us. I have a newborn, technically, turning into an infant pretty soon. She's getting huge, Derek, huge.
I know. I saw a picture of her, and dude, I couldn't believe how big she's gotten.
I can't believe how new. You forget how small your kids are. And then you look at pictures and you're like, and then you look at them now and you're like, wow, I can't believe a human being grows like that, that fast too. And then Derek, you guys are 38 weeks. So
yeah,
this
moving 39.
Dude, this could be the last podcast before your baby. So we'll see.
Hopefully. That means the baby will have come already.
Yeah, hopefully. This episode is episode 12, and it's the Bad Catholic Dad Guide to Popping the Newborn Bubble. And so it's all about newborns and our experiences with newborns and advice. I think Derek is awesome dad who gives great advice. That's why we're friends, just so I can get his advice on things. And so Derek, let's talk about newborns real quick. Before we got married, right? Were you deathly scared of newborns? What was your kind of memories, your pre-marriage memories of kids, newborn children, your memories, but also your memories with your parents raising you guys up,
yeah.
Because you were what, the oldest?
That was the oldest.
You're the oldest, so you kind of grew up with newborns, right? I kind of
did, but it was great because my mom would take care of the major things.
Yeah.
I never had to do the diapers.
Yeah.
and I don't know. I was kind of just, I knew if I was gonna be dad someday, I'll be able to handle whatever. But I mean, for newborns, yeah, it was definitely just dealing with watching my brothers when my mom was gone, or sister at that point, and it's well, if they had an accident in the diaper, then they're gonna just hold off till mom's there.
Right.
That's just gonna happen. And that was that was the main thing. I started. I worked at a universal pre-K back in the day, and there was times at the end when we'd be closing down because it was a side of a daycare kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go into that infant room. Dude, I did not like being in there at all.
No.
It was just I didn't like them. I didn't like newborns.
Yeah.
I didn't like those young little babies.
Yeah.
They're just, because they don't even seem, I don't know, they seem like a puppet or something. Like they seem like some kind of animal pretending to be a baby.
Sure.
Like they just don't have any person. And once they hit that 1-year-old to 2-year-old, then it's like, oh man, I like you. You're pretty fun.
Yeah.
Don't like the newborn. And I will say this, when my wife was pregnant, I just thought of a little baby inside, like the stomach, like to me is just so weird. And we've said this before, like we give credit to our wives and just women in general.
Sure.
I can't deal with, I can't deal with the little muscle twitch in my arm or my eye. It bugs me. I can't stand it when I feel blood pumping through my veins when I'm going to the doctors for checkup. I couldn't imagine a baby kicking me the whole
rib.
9 months.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So when, I'd feel the baby kick and I'm like, yep, I felt it. I'm done with that. When like people like feeling the baby kick, I just, it's weird for me. It reminds me of an alien thing. I don't know. It's just something. Yeah. I know that it's a baby, it's beautiful and everything, but I don't want to touch it.
Yeah. For me, like before I was married, I was kind of exposed to other people's kids a little bit. Like, and for me, I always kind of have the running jokes like, I don't like other kids. Like I'll love my kids one day because they're my kids, but I'm not really a kid guy. Like before I was married, Yeah. And like I remember specifically one time I was in college. Shout out to my campus minister Andrew if you're listening. He was a fresh new campus minister. I think he was mid-20s, and they had their first child, Joey, right? And he brought him to the Catholic campus ministry house. And I remember like, okay, I'm back into my faith. We've heard this, right? Like I'm back into my faith. I'm hanging out with all these other Catholics. I gotta love babies. And so he's like, do you want to hold them? I'm like, yeah, of course. I want to hold them. And so I held them. And then like within a few seconds, the vomit and baby puke all over me. I'm like, it's like, man, I'll love my kids one day, but your kid, keep them away from me, So, man. And then
I thought you were gonna say you were gonna drop the baby. I was like, dang, man.
Oh my gosh, that's hardcore. Yeah. So,
no, but throwing up is terrible. Yeah, that's a bad first impression with that.
Yeah. No, seriously. Like, I mean, it wasn't. I think that was one of my first encounters with a newborn. Like,
well, it's definitely the most impressionable.
Yeah, I guess so. Since I'm telling the story, right? And so we move forward, right? We're married now. There's a time. I think there was a time. I don't really remember a time before we had kids anymore, Derek. There was a time when we didn't have kids. And so run me through your story, Derek, like of your memories before you had what's your eldest name? Kateri. Before you had Kateri, like where were you guys when you found out you guys were pregnant?
Just pure bliss, man. Without kids, what an incredible,
tell me everything, man.
Joyful time that is. We oh man, it was just great because like and everyone will say this too. It's just like the flexibility of doing anything whenever you want. Like, let's go to a movie.
Yeah.
All right, let's go eat dinner. You know what? Let's go see another movie. Like, you don't have to respond to anybody.
No.
And especially when you're with the person that you love, there's nothing better. This freedom of like, I can go anywhere I want with this person I love, and I don't have to check in at home for the kids. And we were playing music a lot more too, so there's that flexibility to play music more and just it was just the freedom to do whatever, whenever you want. And again, people tell you all the time, like, man, enjoy the time, before you have kids, and that's what I would say. Just like spend a whole day at the movies, like go do something, because you're going to like, they might not be good movies, but at least you'll have that time with each other to say, remember the time when we could just spend all day at the movies?
Right.
Like, I mean, that was the things like pre-kids that it was, and John, like our 11-year anniversary is coming up on the 10th. Oh my gosh,
that's awesome, dude.
So that was like feels like a while ago.
Yeah. What was your eldest is what, like 6?
Yeah, 6.
So were you guys married for 5 years before you had kids, or?
Yeah, we
okay.
We had a miscarriage early on and stuff like that. So there was like, every kind of couple kind of goes through like some kind of either difficulty or whatever. So we were blessed with the time we had together beforehand. So our oldest being 6 is awesome now, because the good thing is we don't look back right now as parents and like, man, I can't wait till the kids are out of the house. Like we are so happy with this time that we have with our kids too.
Sure.
Where now we have the difference is we have to pay a little bit more to go to movies, but we can still do it. And going to Disney, again, I think and this is alluding to the Jim Gaffigan book. Jim Gaffigan has this great quote and says, like, the one thing about having multiple kids is that you get to experience once in a lifetime things more than once in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And so there's something to that where you get to celebrate like a lot of firsts and stuff like that. So again, we so enjoyed so many aspects of having no kids, but at the same time that transition was really good. So
yeah,
it's all there. The pre-kid memories, fantastic. And
yeah.
yeah.
We were just,
how about for you?
We were actually just like, so for, if you know my marriage, right, we straight up had kids right out the gate. Well, we got married, within 9 months we had a baby. But what I do remember is we were just reminiscing today because Facebook is great, like in terms of telling you what you did a year ago or a couple years ago, like on this day, right?
The time hop, dude, is so good.
Yeah, I love it just because like I'm guilty of it. You kind of just forget about, even it could be the most amazing memory ever and you'll just forget about it. It's just how humans are hardwired, we don't remember everything, every detail, and pictures are great for that, right? So for us, like just looking at our time hop on Facebook on this day or whatever it's called, like we were just reminiscing about our honeymoon, like, and our honeymoon came up, which was around this time. We spent like 3 weeks in Italy or something like that, and that came up on our Instagram or on our Facebook today, and just how less less weighted I was, but also like just how not, it's a different kind of happiness, like just how happy we were just being the two of us. And I'm not going to sit here and just be like, man, I really regret having a kid in 9 months, as coming out of the gate. I'm not ever going to say that, because this time that I have, like, it's like you said, this time that we had, what we have with our kids right now is awesome. And as my kids get up and grow older, it only gets better. But for me, it's like, yeah, like I kind of wish, we could just go to the movies, or I wish, because I remember even one time, like my wife and I did that. We were just like, we watched a movie at AMC in Alexandria, and we walked out the theater and we were like, what do you want to do? We were just like, and I'm like, do you want to go back in and watch another movie? And it's like, all right, let's do it, and just the time you have and just being able to just do whatever you want on the whim. And there's a beautiness in that, but also like, now we have kids, there's a beautiness in that too. But one memory that comes to me is when we found out we were pregnant. And I found out on Father's Day 2015. Yeah, 2015, because my son was born in 16.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. We had just we knew we might be pregnant, and our friends had come over. We watched The Babadook, which is a fantastic horror movie.
Incredible movie.
Incredible. One of my favorite horror movies of all time. With our friends, they came over our apartment, and it was really late. And and past this hour, we forgot that they tow. And they had towed my friend's car at like 3 a.m. We were all hanging out watching The Babadooks. Oh, and he was like, where's my car? I can't find it. And he came back to us. He's like, oh man, I think I got towed. He called the tow company. They said they had his car. And it was only by like 10 minutes, by the way, because we had arrived at the towing company before his car got back. It was like literally 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. If like if we didn't like small chat after the movie about the movie, we probably would have made it. But anyway, so we drop him off, get his car, and then we're on our way back, and we're like, well, we need to do this. We need to get a pregnancy test. And we were coming back, and there was like a 24-hour CVS on the way back, and we grabbed a pregnancy test. And it was like Father's Day was the next day, so it was the day before Father's Day, but it was already like early Father's Day with like at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. And we took it, and it was it was such an amazing feeling. I remember just like this relief, like, man, I'm gonna be a father. This is amazing, like. So that was my story of like when we found out we were pregnant. How about you? Like, what was your guys' like story of how you found out? Especially with Katira, and after your firstborn, it's like, oh, we're pregnant. All right.
Yeah. With the first one, like I remember when the first time we found out we were pregnant, it was I wasn't ready. Like I was like, oh, I'm not ready to be a dad. What the heck? This is going way too fast. But again, if like you're not ready to be a dad, you shouldn't be getting married at the time. So you have to kind of man up.
This is openness to life, right? Like
Yeah,
openness
exactly.
to life. Yeah, faithful.
And
fruitful.
then once the miscarriage happened,
Mhm.
it all of a sudden snapped me like right away. Like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I was like feeling like it was
Yeah, I
like it
remember you
felt like I
told the
was
story,
being
yeah.
selfish. And it really changed my viewpoint where I'm like, oh my gosh, and it wasn't till we had moved out to Virginia, like right away when we moved out to Virginia, we found out we were pregnant, and we had just started like our new jobs and stuff. I'm like, whoa, this is a totally new chapter. Like we're entering a new state. We don't have really we have no family out here. We have nothing that we're used to. And it was like starting from scratch with a new baby now. And it was like a whole new world on top of a whole new world. And that was I give a lot of credit to I think Bethany's and my teamwork were really good for that time because we had no one but really ourselves. We had our church community, but we didn't know them that well at the time. And it was a little bit difficult. We didn't know our friends that well out here. So that was very tough. And then after that, when, we find out we're pregnant, it's just because now we're going on with the fourth one. And it just seems like this continual roll of kids. Like it seems like this baby state. It isn't individual kids. It's just like, yeah, we have a baby, we have a baby, we have a baby. And it's always a baby, and it's not a specific baby. It just feels like there's Indiana Jones, switching that golden idol thing. And it's just like you're switching out one for another. And you're always in that baby stage. So it was, it's always an interesting thing for us too, because when we're telling our family or whatever, the problem is Bethany's family's in California, mine's in New York, so we can't really have that moment all together.
Sure.
So it was very different for us with just the way it happened. And then again, it's funny because like a lot of this is gonna attribute to, we're gonna be talking about this in the Jim Gaffigan book review, because they talk all about like having your kids, and, all this stuff. So that time of just finding out. It's always that when that pregnancy test, man, comes out and it's like, you get to see it and you're like, oh my gosh, we're in it. Like this is it.
I'm with you, man.
It's one of those weird things, man. It's an object. As a kid, I would have, if someone showed me one of those things with the lines on it, I would have like, what the heck does that mean? It doesn't bother me at all. But now as an adult, like that's one of those bigger game changers. When you see that thing, you're like, oh man,
that plus or whatever, the two lines or the plus or whatever. It's like, man. We actually keep ours, as gross as that sounds.
Yeah, you know what?
We
I'm
have it in
sure
like a
Bethany
plastic
does.
bag
I
in
haven't
like our
asked her,
drawer
but
or something
I
like
bet
that.
she does.
Yeah. I remember like, so we're like guilty of, I feel like we're considered like millennials is what they call us nowadays, and like we get trapped in like social media and like just like announcing everything to the world and stuff like that. But I remember one of the things we didn't announce, we found out in like June, and we didn't tell our parents till after whatever the first sonogram is. I think it's like 12 weeks or something like that.
Okay.
And so like we didn't tell our family until the 12, like after the 12-week sonogram, just because we wanted to make sure everything was, A-OK. Like the pregnancy test, like you know this, right? Like it's a good indicator, but it's not 100%, right? Like so we of course but dude, nothing gets more real than seeing that baby on the sonogram. Like I feel like that's the moment where I was like,
yeah, it's doubling down on that first initial pregnancy test thing. You're like,
yeah, it's just awesome. Let's hug it out, and then bam, like that's it, right? That's
when you see that human being right there.
Oh my gosh,
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's so funny. So like everyone knows Derek. Like hopefully, I think they heard your story before. You guys don't know the gender until like the day of, right? Like
yeah,
and
exactly.
So for us, I remember our. I don't even remember if she asked us if we wanted to know. She was like, "Oh, you're definitely having a boy." It was just really funny.
Shoot, she just said it straight up.
I maybe she did. I feel like she did. I feel like that's not what a good whatever I don't know, a radiologist or whatever would say, but like
that
maybe
bedside manner, man, that's not good.
Yeah, it's just so funny. Like, but like his thing was like sticking out, so it was like very easy to see. It was so easy to see. He's shown from the very beginning. No, anyway, so we told our family and friends, like closest friends and family. We had like a little dinner for them, just because my family was in town, and we hid. My wife and I on our honeymoon met Pope Francis at the Vatican, and inside on the back side of the picture, we taped the sonogram to the back side of the Pope Francis picture of us meeting, and so that was the way they found out. But anyway, just a kind of a thing. Like, and then so let's fast forward. Birthing stories, man. Birthing stories with our newborn. Like, I think maybe the listeners have heard these stories before, but like for just to kind of recap and everything, like, what was your guys' first childbirthing memories? Like, what happened? Did it go smoothly? You know, how long was it? Like, what was your highlights? Like, obviously as dads, like, we're kind of helpless during that birth, during birth, but you know, what was kind of your memories for that one?
We didn't take any birthing classes or anything like that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we didn't do any of that. Part of it, again, it was being new to the area, and there was so much going on too, where it was like, you know, I think people have been doing this before they had birthing classes or stuff like that. So we're gonna just and Bethany was like showing, like she would watch like all these things about like, you know, the birthing bar where you know all this stuff like at home in the you know, I was like, let's just go to the hospital and let's do this. Sure. And we didn't do any of that stuff, and that, you know, again, give it credit to our human nature and how we're created. But I mean, my goodness, Bethany took care of that kid. She had just some difficulties where to me it seemed like it went smooth. Being the first one, like, you know, we were watching some episodes of Lost on the DVD player. Like, I think season 6 was out at that point or something. We were watching some of that. But again, it went, for me, it went pretty smoothly. I almost finished my book, which was good. And, you know, everything went, like, again, that moment of seeing your kid for life-changing, that first kid, super life-changing. My family was able to come down. Some of Bethany's family from California was there, and it was just awesome to have. Again, we didn't know if it was a boy or girl, so we were kind of like, we weren't sure like what kind of clothes we should have or anything like that. So that was the first one. Didn't go the smoothest. You know, it seemed to be going much smoother each child through. It just seems a lot to go quicker, and Bethany's recovery time seems to be better with each one as well. And you know, you have to start doing different things. Like, when you have your first kid, you can be at the hospital like all the time with your wife. But when we had 2, you know, when we were having our third one, it was like I had to go home with my kids and I had to leave my wife at the hospital. It was like it was a different kind of thing because, you know, some of the times you don't have your family there and your kids are used to the schedule of being here. Mom's already gone, so you're throwing them off stuff. So it gets a little bit more complicated, but you know, for the most part, you know, thankfully, you know, we're really thankful that they've all been natural births and great doctors, great nurses. We definitely can't complain. These people are incredible that helped us get through this. And it is so scary. You're right. As a dad, we're helpless. You hear these beeping machines. You can tell them when the contractions are coming up, but you can't really help deal with that, you know? And so you're just there to do what the doctors say and try to, you know, get your wife some of those ice chips that they might need to chew on while this is going on. So what about for you? First one?
Yeah, it was, I think, first one, just from experience and from what I, like, even before we went into the hospital, like, all our friends were like, first one, it's going to take a while. Like, it's not going to be in and out like the movies, right? Like, and so for us, we were there. Oh, my gosh, my wife, so, like, amazing. She labored for pretty much, like, almost 24 hours, Derek. Like, it was insane, like, being in that
Something
hospital.
about that first one, that was like Bethany, too.
Yeah.
24-hour
and it's so funny. Like, I feel like after the second one, so we just had our second one, and it went so much more smoother. It was like 4 hours or 5 hours, something like that, by the time we were in and out. Or by the time,
were you able to get a nap in?
The first one?
No, the second one. Did you get a nap? I mean, that seems pretty fast.
No, I didn't get a nap in. Maybe a 30-minute nap. Maybe we both got a 30-minute nap or something like that. Because I remember after we had our like tiny nap, it was, she woke up like abruptly and she was like, "It's game time. Like, I feel it's coming." Wow. Yeah. And so for us, like, first one, dude, like, we got to the hospital. We confirmed water broke and everything, and I remember just like, all right, I'm ready, I'm pumped up, I'm really pumped up, and like, you know, it's that SpongeBob like 4 hours later, and I'm just like chilling, and then like once the medicine, so for us, it just seemed like we were always gonna get medicine, you know, with anesthesia. Is that
the epidural?
The epidural, the epidural, and it just always felt like we were always gonna do that. So once we got the epidural, like, I know my wife. And she likes to suffer in ways, like,
and that's why she married you, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's exactly why she married me, right? And so she has this thing where she likes to at least like hold off until like
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Those Catholics, man. Gluttons.
She's like, this one's for sinners. This one's for people in purgatory. This one's for, my family and stuff like that. And then I remember like our family, it was awesome. Like, and shout out to my family, because I called my mom and dad the morning of, and I waited till at least 6 a.m. just before, because we arrived in the hospital like around 3 that day. And I was like, hey, just letting you know, like, Fatima's in labor, whenever you want to come up, don't rush, blah, blah, blah. And they were there like 3 hours later, from Virginia Beach. It was awesome. And Fatima's family came, and we all kind of just hung out in the room, and we were watching movies. We took a nap, and after the epidural, we played the rosary, and then after the epidural, it was like she was already in pain, and so after the epidural came, it was like magic land for a little bit, and so we got a nap in. I read books, I played some video games and stuff like that. And and then like once game time happened, it just took a long time, like just a really long time. But for what was your kind of like role during the birth? I know we always joke around that we're helpless, but for in your experience, Derek, even to like talking to fathers, fathers who are going to have kids, or fathers who've had kids, like what was kind of your role like when you in the hospital,
Yeah, because that wasn't something that we talked about initially, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I was basically gonna get whatever she wanted. I was gonna like that first one, man. I was watching that machine, because Bethany didn't get the epidural until it was like really late in the game, where she was just like, she couldn't do it anymore, like she couldn't push anymore, and like the epidural changed her viewpoint on just giving birth in general.
So she did get it. She did get the epidural.
She did get it the first one, but it wasn't right away. We were gonna try to hold up. Yeah. Again, you don't know much going in there. It's just stupid young kids that are having their first kid. You don't know.
So
that much.
Going into it, did you guys do a lot of research, or did you guys kind of just?
We did some.
Okay.
I mean, we did some, and Bethany. Bethany's from a big family, and it just seems one of those things that she did know stuff about it, and she would do a lot of research. We would watch some shows. I'm like, you're giving me nightmares. Like, there was like all these terrible birth stories, and I was like, I don't want to know this stuff.
No.
But as that epidural changed things. The role for me too was just like helping her keep an eye on just whatever that needed to do. I know late at night when it was getting kind of dicey, where it's like, is this going to need a C-section? Like, I was praying so much, and that was one of the things that I started doing more, was definitely like praying a lot during that time. I was also the communicator with the families to let know what was going on, and that kind of stuff. So, and also like the lower back massages, man, that helps a lot too. Nice. Anything like that, leg cramps, you got to be there to help with that stuff, because you're right, you are kind of like helpless for that stuff. And then and just being like telling the doctors and nurses, like, look, whatever you need, I'm here to help. I know I'm definitely not qualified enough, but give me something to do. If
give me the epidural, I'll do it myself, right? Like,
well, that was, man, I almost took a nap, man. When I watched that epidural go in, I almost took a nap. Like,
dude, that's right, dude. I like cried, like, because my wife was such in pain, and that epidural, dude. I looked at that needle, and I was like, this is not going to be fun, like, especially for my wife, like for me, like, I'm the same way. Like, I was a prayer warrior. I was like, doctors, like, whatever you need, like, nurses, whatever you need, I'll help. Getting those ice, running back and forth. You want some ice chips? Like, let's go. And but I think the one thing that one of my friends told me is like be the coach if you can. Like, the midwife or the nurse or the doctor is gonna coach her through everything, but like, you're there, be like the assistant coach, you know what I mean? Or be the coach if you can. Like,
well, and the emotional angles to go at, where it's like, we're going to see our baby's face and it's going to be awesome. And you're doing a fantastic job, because like how much your wife can take, like, at least for like, you can tell when they're being overwhelmed. And so you have a good read on that. So as for being a coach, like the emotional coach, if you can, to like, give those pep talks.
Or like help. I remember like I helped with breathing like the first time. Second time I was like, oh, she knows how to breathe. I'm good. But the first time I just remember like breathing with her, like as cliche as that sounds, like just breathing with her, making sure. Like the second time I was telling her, like, my wife was like guilty of not like holding in her breath, which doesn't help during breathing, which is kind of funny. Like pushing, like you got to breathe while you're pushing at the same time. I know how hard that sounds, but for me, I was like, breathe, like make sure you breathe, like. And then the second baby, when she was breathing, that was when the baby was making the most project. It was so cool to like see that. It was
cool
crazy
to see that difference.
And holding the leg, like you gotta hold the leg at least for one of your kids.
Don't let go. Yeah, you just do.
That's the insane,
thing.
Dude.
Don't shy away. If the doctor asks you something, you can't shy away. You have no right to shy away.
No, what?
Like that was the thing. That's the main thing, man. It's like you know. The dignity isn't, at the hospital, the nurses and doctors don't care. No. But you were like, as an outsider, you're like, dude, this is embarrassing, is it? And I think the mom is going through enough pain and stuff. They don't even care. But I think you as a dad are the one that's the most uncomfortable. I think it's weird because you're like, this, modesty goes out the window, man. When you're like giving birth and stuff like that. So it's like, when the doctor tells you to do something, you just do it, man, because you have no reason to complain. Like you're not going through, like you don't have to have your clothes off when anyone's giving birth. You are fully clothed. You probably smell great, and it's like you have a blessing. You have to do whatever they say.
You're like the ultimate yes man during that time.
Yeah,
you have
it's
to.
Like it is your
You don't
job.
even have an option. Like it's this or it's like sitting down. So yeah, dude, that was such an amazing moment. Like just being there.
And I almost missed our third baby's birth, man. I was over at Roy Rogers eating some chicken wings, and then she's like, "You better get over here." I'm like, "Damn!" And I ran across the street carrying all my food, like waving at the traffic to stop, like just like Jurassic World, man. He's telling those velociraptors. I put my food in the trunk of my car because I didn't know what to do. I was like so frazzled.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome, dude. That's so funny.
But I made it. In 7 minutes after I got in that room, the baby was born.
That's great. All right, so. Baby's born. Let's talk about our boys. We both have boys. Circumcision, dude. Like, what was your thought process on circumcision, and how was that memory for you going there? Oh my
gosh, this was a tough discussion. I talked with so many people about this because this is a very interesting topic, and one that I feel like I can't even joke about because there's many reasons why you do or don't do it.
Sure.
And I went and I did a lot of research on it. It felt weird to keep looking up things about the pee-pee, you know, but
sure. Got to make sure you have the right keywords or else you might get something different.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. It's like, don't even think about clicking those images, son.
No,
and
definitely not.
But that was a tough thing. And especially when and I was so happy to have my first boy, it was a tough one. So I talked with family members, and I know this whole thing of traditionally it's just like the dad, but it's like it's a conversation. You have to understand, first of all, why people do it, why, what the Christian teaching is on it. So I did a lot of homework on it, just to save my boys, any future if he's listening. He's like, Dad, I can't believe you talked about my thing like that
on air.
But I will say it is a decision that you need to make as a family, and the reasons why you're doing it. And again, Jim Gaffigan book, he had a moment where he talks about it. I don't know. Did you get to that part yet?
Yeah, I got to that part. Yeah, definitely.
So it's interesting. I went into it a little bit more in depth thinking about it than Jim Gaffigan did. But
I think me and Jim Gaffigan are right on the nose there.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, for me, I don't want to interrupt you. I want to get back to your story.
No, go ahead.
But for me, it's quick. Yeah. We never had a conversation about it. It was kind of like we were always just going to do it.
It just surprises you how that all of a sudden it seems like it is it's a big decision, even though it's circumcision is a big decision.
Sure.
It's just the way it is.
That's the life motto. That's the life
it
motto.
Is. I have a t-shirt. We should have Bad Catholic Dads.
Dude, oh my gosh. We got to put that on a t-shirt idea right there. That's good.
But dude, it's a tough choice. And I know a lot of people and I'm not going to even talk about it further just so I don't make some of my friends upset, because I know where some of my friends stand on this thing. But to me, it was a difficult decision, and we talked about it for a while actually, if it was a boy.
Wow.
So
awesome.
Based on the readings that I had done, how I felt about the situation, we came to one that we were both good on, and that's what happened. So, for what it's worth, Blaze is still a boy, and hopefully everything is functioning correctly for him.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. So dude, I don't know. And so I want to go back to your decision for that. Was it a quick decision for you to just?
I think we just had one conversation before. Now I'm you got me wondering should I have researched it? You know what I mean?
I mean, is it okay if we go into this a little deeper here?
I feel if you want to, you can. I'm going to be totally authentic with it. Yeah. For me, it was just I I don't know. Like it was just a conversation. Like it wasn't whether we were going to do it or not. It was whether who's going to go with him to do it.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember just like I want to do it. I'm his dad. You know what I mean? Like I want to be with him. And granted, my wife had just given birth, and so she was like really exhausted to go anyway. She's like, you just go. And so that was kind of the extent of our conversation doing it. And like, so for us, now you got like, should I have done research or, but for us, we did have a family conversation about it. It was just like, yes, of course we're going to do this thing, you know?
And that was part of like my thing is like, I'm like, oh, like, cause initially I was just going to be like, that's just what has to be done. And then I was curious on it. So I was just doing, just looking on it. And I'm like, I know that circumcision is part of, the covenant that was made in the Old Testament. And my question was, the couple things is like, is it necessary? What are some of the risks if you don't or do it? And so I was really weighing those options because at first I was like, yeah, if you're a Christian, you have to be circumcised. And then when I did more research, I was like, oh, there's some more interesting things than I had initially thought. Because I was on the same initial process. I think that a lot of dads just go into is like, yeah, I'm going to have it done because if it was done to me, then I want, I'm going to keep going with that. My son is just going to be like the dad is. And then I just started, just thinking about that. Like, is that a reason that I want to continue that? And if I'm doing it, I want to do it for the right reasons, not just because it happened to me, because I don't want to do everything because it happened to me. So it was, it was just a long process of looking at what some of what the Catholic Church's teachings were, what I had asked some priests, and I had talked, and talking with some friends that are really conservative Catholics, others that are, maybe a little bit more progressive, but and it just comes down to your like real decision with that situation. But I took it, I was surprised because it forced me to take it seriously. Like I was like, I don't even want to think about that. Like, and I'm like, it wasn't me thinking like if I have to do it or not. It wasn't me. It was like, should I do it? Because if I do have to do it, then I'm gonna be along the process, just like how you were saying. Yeah. So it was. I suggest any dad just to kind of think about the reasons for this and just looking up medical information of things and looking up the teachings and just coming to your own conclusion, because it's not really clear one way or the other what way is absolutely better, because you're going to, just like anything, you're going to see one way is like, this is going to get super infected. You have to make sure it's cleaned out a lot more if you don't do it, or like if you do it, it's a risk and you don't need to, there's all these different things. So it was one of the harder decisions that I had to do because Bethany put it, put exactly how it kind of went with you. Is like, well, this is going to be your decision because this is your department. And I was like, okay, thanks, honey. And it was a difficult thing. And it's weird because it opens you up to weird conversations. Like where you start hearing about dads and they're like, well, my brother didn't have it done. And it's like, how do you even know? Like, do you even compare these things? And like, I don't want to ask my dad. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to ask my dad or like father-in-law, like, hey, so are you circumcised? Let's go out for a beer. It's just not something that really. Right. So it's a very sensitive topic for a sensitive area, I guess. But yeah, that was, I don't know. That was, sorry. That was great. But it is interesting.
Super interesting. Thing. Like, it's interesting because it's like you said, it's like these are things that we might or might not think about, as serious things, topics, you know what I mean? And for dads especially, it's kind of like this thing of like, well, what's the reason why I'm doing this? With really anything, right? Like, what's if you have like a major decision, and again, Bad Catholic Dad quote of the year: circumcision is what is it? Circumcision is a major decision or something like that, right? Oh my gosh! And so it's like, what's with anything really? It's like, what's the reason why we're doing this?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and I will say that it helped me learn my faith a little bit more, and like the reasons for like what certain things represented in, like just in the upbringing of Christ and the early church and baptism, and why certain things. It just helped me understand of like, wow, our church is really awesome because there's some things like with the covenants that are being made, what the new ones are that represent and how that covers this and that. And it helped me. It was great because those questions led me down a further walk in my faith as growing up as a man in the church. And I was very thankful for that kind of opportunity. Now, we'll find out how things go, like, as we go on with my son's life, and as I try to approach heaven. We'll see if we did this right.
Sure. Sure. All right, so running a little bit out of time, let's just get right into the newborn bubble, the bubble we're talking about. So if anyone doesn't know, the newborn bubble is, have you heard of this newborn bubble before? That's what we call it. I don't know if anyone calls it that, but we call it that. And we heard a friend call it that one time. We were like, all right, let's call it that.
Yeah, I honestly haven't heard of it.
Oh, okay. I mean, you've been through it 4 times.
Yeah, I've been through it. Can you explain what I went through, John? What is it for me?
So the newborn bubble is kind of like that. Those first couple months of just like the constant, waking up and crying and feeding and pooping like crazy, peeing like crazy, changing diapers. It's kind of like just like that first couple months.
Oh, you mean for the kid? I thought you were just talking about the dad in general for that.
Yeah, for the kid and for it's kind of this. So like it's kind of like hibernation, but it's the opposite. No one goes to sleep. It's the opposite of hibernation, but we're all hidden. Like so, like it's like.
What is the opposite of hibernation, John? Is it bibernation?
Dude,
is that the opposite of high? Is that a dad
I don't
joke?
know if that's a word, but the newborn bubble is what we call it. So
yeah.
We go in, we have this baby, come back to the house, bring it back to the house for the first time, and we disappear. No one hears from us. No one sees us, and that's when we enter into this newborn bubble. So you kind of get it by now, right? Like
yeah.
So.
Yeah.
How was that newborn bubble for, like, at least the first time, right? Like, I joked around with my wife today. I was like, once you have one baby, you're an expert on like that newborn bubble stage, and then but you're not an expert on 2 newborn, the second baby.
Yeah.
You kind of like become an expert as you go,
Yeah.
But one kid definitely prepares you for 2 kids, and 2 kids prepare you for 3 kids, right? So how was that, especially with Kateri? Like, how was that newborn bubble for you guys? Like, how is it for you still, for your wife? And finally, what advice would you give to potential future and fathers to be with the newborn bubble?
Yeah, that newborn bubble, man.
It's freaking hard, right?
I'll tell you, because and it depends on where you're living too, because, and this as well, living in an apartment is tough with the baby.
Can't wait.
Because you're dealing with sounds all the time, and it's like you don't have space. Like everything is really close together because you're getting a lot of new items too. When you're a parent that, how we are now with 3, like we've definitely streamlined the stuff that we use now. But as for the first one, you're just like overly prepared with things. Like you have all these things with you at all times in your house. And eventually once you start getting used to it, you're like, actually, I don't need that. And you start shedding that stuff. But when you have that first one, it is, you're extra sensitive to like, oh man, the baby's crying. I don't want to bother people. Same thing with like going to church for the first time with your baby. Like that is a difficult thing.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, but that newborn bubble, I think it's caused too because the bubble, at least for me, was caused because I wasn't comfortable with bothering the world with my baby crying or just like maybe the inconvenience that I'd cause other people. So I was very sensitive that I didn't not want someone to pop the bubble, but I was afraid of having the bubble pop and like getting people like, why did you got the bubble on me? What the heck's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like that was the main thing I think for me. And it was just becoming more comfortable with that. And I mean, that first one, it's so tough to get the sleeping. I mean, we've got it down now, but that first one, man, it's at least for Kateri, like getting her down for naps and stuff was so tough because you're just not good with babies when you first start out, especially for dads. It's just tough because you feel clumsy when you're holding a baby, and and now it's just easy. You can do it with one arm, but at first you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna break their neck. We're gonna need a baby wheelchair and just stuff like that, and it's just everything is like, is the baby still breathing? You're so worried about things, and then you just find out that babies are made to, survive.
Oh, dude, they really are.
They are made for bad parents that if you drop them, they'll get over it. They have a short memory. They'll forgive you. They still love you.
Yeah. Someone was one of my my wife's cousins. She's a OR nurse, and she was telling me sometimes like she's seen babies get dropped from stretchers.
Oh my god!
And the doctors are like, "Is she bleeding internally? No. Okay, they're good." Like it's crazy. Like how much I remember like just you can do all the research in the world of like how to take care of a baby, but until you're in it, until you're like in that newborn bubble,
totally
nothing can prepare you for that, And so like I remember just like holding this, what I thought is this fragile, and they're fragile to an extent, but like for me, it was like I was holding like glass that if I even like tapped on something, it would break, you know. And that's the kind of thought that I, and like with the first one, you like, again, doesn't matter what kind of research you do, you have no idea what you're doing. You know, it's, at least for us, like my wife is good because she had some experience with her. She has nieces and nephews, but for me, I've never had a niece or nephew that was that small. I've never had exposure to babies like that. And so for me, it was like, this is brand new.
Well, yeah, because you never had to pay that much attention.
No.
You know, it's like, oh, the baby's, just give it back to the mom. And like now it's like, oh crap, you are responsible for this thing living. And so there is that stress.
The one thing that I love is like all your friends and family like come for the good parts and never for the bad parts. You know, with the babies, it's like, oh, you're here for when it's smiling and slowly, but you're not here for the 3 a.m. diaper change I have to do. You know, but anyway, like. Dude, newborn bubble is insane, and like we're going through it now, and like it's like, dude, I love what you said. It's like the first one, you have no idea what you're doing, but by like second, third, you got it down almost. You know, for us, our daughter is awesome just because like we're more prepared and we know, and like dude, she's only 2 months and we've already got her sleeping schedule down. She's finally sleeping through the night. Better. And like I remember carrying James all the time because I'm like, I don't want him to cry. I don't want him to fuss. I just want him to be this peaceful baby, and as much as I can be. And the way I do that is just carrying him all the time, you know. And for my second daughter, I've almost like neglected her at this point, you know. I'm just like, all right, I'll rock her, put her to sleep, and I'll put her down.
Well, you start finding out that the kids can actually live alongside of you, you know, which now it's like, oh, you have kids. You don't feel like you have to shield or protect them from like the world or bothering people where you're like, this is a part of who I am, and you become comfortable. And
you know, the nuances better now. You know, with James, I didn't know any of his nuances, but with Lucy, at least I can, you know, project James on her and just like, if she likes one thing, I'll do that thing. You know, for Lucy, she's been like, she'll want to see you next to her for her to go back to sleep. I just go next to her, pat her on the back, boom, right back to sleep, you know.
The cool thing with the newborn bubble is that if you were walking somewhere or you're at a park or at a store, there's other people you notice their newborn bubbles, you know, like, so you walk up and you're like, oh, you know, like, and there's a whole new segment of your life where you all of a sudden have something in common with someone else, and you can, you know, just like, oh, how old's your baby? And oh, that's cool. You know, like, is it your first? And it all of a sudden opens you up to new worlds of discussion and dialogue with different people. And it allows you to meet new people. And sometimes it's good to have like, you know, have that opportunity, because other dads are at the playground not knowing what they're doing either. And it's cool to just hear what other people are going through.
Yeah, agreed. And the one thing I'll say, like, I love meeting other parents just because like you've been there with them. You know, you've had the same experiences with them. You've both had that 3 a.m. bad explosion diaper change. You know, you've all had that, you know, crazy thing that happened to you in your newborn bubbles. But it's kind of like that coming together of like bouncing ideas off each other and just like, you know, that kind of stuff. But and just knowing what each other has gone through too, you know.
Well, and today, for example, like if I had my baby initially, and we were at a place and it got hurt, I would be like, oh my gosh, we have to leave. The baby's crying. I don't know what to do. This time, like just today, we were at Buffalo Wild Wings and we were getting ready to eat. We were outside, and the food came, and my son Blaze went running over. He's turning 2 soon. He was running over to where his high chair was, and he tripped over the leg of my chair, and he smashed his face on the pavement. And I'm like, how many teeth are we gonna lose here? And I pick him up, and there was just blood everywhere. And so I wasn't like, what do I do? I just like took him to the bathroom, and you know, like just started like putting stuff on his mouth, and I'm like, oh, let me check if all your teeth are there, and got him to stop, and then he stopped. We walked back out to our table, and he was fine. And it was one of those things where I know that the initial newborn me would have been just beside myself, like, my kid probably needs to go get surgery. But you start realizing, like, look, it's gonna heal. If it's a baby tooth, and he's okay. He's got a little bit of a fat lip, and you know, but that's the thing, that you're gonna learn a lot of stuff in that bubble initially that are gonna help you later on.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I remember like just being with James the first time. It's like, oh, we're starting to fuss. Like, I gotta leave the room. You know what I mean? Like, and with now that I have 2 kids, like if he or she's starting to fuss, I'll see what I can do first before I like leave the room and stuff like that. And but we'll go from there. Anyway, So all right, so Derek, we're gonna go through some kind of hot fire advice questions, for the audience, but also kind of memories. Or if a memory jumps out to you, tell me your memory, and then vice versa. I'll do the same. Or if you have any advice with it, and I'll do the same, vice versa. But all right, so with the newborn bubble, how much? So this is only for your first child, okay? Second child,
first child.
first child. How much work did Bethany do versus how much work did you do? Was it like a 50-50 thing, or was it like, I mean, obviously Bethany, you know, with the feeding and everything, but from what your memory is 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Wow, from the first one.
How much work did, especially not knowing, like, I feel
like we worked so hard for that first one, especially with the sleeping stuff. Bethany, again, if your kid, like, it's better for the mom to have the baby in, you know, the early stages, because they're going to feed them and the baby's just going to sleep in the bed and stuff like that. But Bethany had returned to work pretty soon after the baby was born, so there was a lot of times where I had Kateri at a very young age where I had to bottle feed her like a lot, and that was like very stressful, just because it was, and I feel like that also hurt the whole bedtime process, because she was like, I don't know if she got anxiety from it, but it was tough. But Bethany definitely did, like, I mean, a majority of like just a lot of things.
Yeah.
It was just a weird timing part in our life where she had to go to work and I'd have her for 8 hours by myself, you know, and it was difficult. Yeah, that's tough, man. We did a good job. Bethany definitely did, like, especially early on with the baby. Like, she did so much early on. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what the percentage is, man. 70-30, 60-40. I don't know. I'll have to ask Bethany. She's gonna slap me after this. I know.
Dude, she listens. I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I did 90%. You did nothing, Derek.
You did nothing, man.
You literally sat there and did nothing.
I'll have to ask her. I'm gonna go, like, after we do this recording. I'm like, Bethany, how much work did I do for the newborn?
That's a good. We need to have our wives on. I can't wait for the wives episode. It's gonna be good.
It would be good if she was sitting right here.
Oh, that's so funny.
I'm like, oh, she looks not very happy.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you, dude. Like,
what did you? Yeah, what about for you?
It's shout out to my wife. She's awesome, and like, again, she had some experience with you know, her nephew and niece, and I had nothing. I could bring nothing to the table, and so it was almost like she was training me at the same time. You know, with this baby, and it was like I remember, dude, my first diaper change. I was so scared, Derek, so scared. And it was like I had never changed a diaper. I had to get the nurse / my wife to walk me through it and everything. But you know, but as you go, it's like the one thing I'll say, Derek, is like, okay, it was probably like 70-30, 60-40, kind of along with you. You know, please don't slap me, Fatima. And the one thing I'll say is, like, I remember, like, being in the hospital and just not knowing what to do and not knowing how to handle this baby. But there was, like, the instant you have a baby, and I'm pretty sure, Derek, you can attest to this too, there's a switch that turns on, and, like, your paternal instincts just come out and, like, come to life. And, like, things you never thought you could ever have, you know? Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like this. I just remember just being like, whoa, where did I learn to be this compassionate? Or where did I learn how to, I don't know, change the diaper so like this, you know? It was crazy. It was like this switch that got turned on inside of me, and helping the mom, like helping Fatima, like if she needed anything, like, you know, whether it was with the baby or going out and getting food, you know, because she can't really do that, you know. And like there's this one night where I think, so we did breastfeeding for a little bit, and then my wife's supply ran out. And so we had to switch to formula. And that was pretty crazy. Because, like, the one thing I'll say is, like, we had this plan going in, Derek, like how to raise the baby and what we're going to do in the hospital and everything. And that plan just goes right out the door as soon as you walk in the hospital.
Once reality happens.
It's like, the one thing I'll say is, like, I remember with baby number one is just being so obsessed with sticking to the plan. Fatima, we got to stick to the plan. It's not in the plan. We got to stick to the plan. And now it's like, we're just kind of going with the flow, you know, like, all right, well, let's just go with the flow, like, you know. And I remember, like, even with Lucy, I'm just like, oh, well, like, it worked for James. James survived, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm sure Lucy will be okay. But anyway, so yeah, like, that was my experience. Like, just,
Yeah, and better for worse, I think Bethany and I we didn't have like a plan when like we were really laid back with this whole thing, and just kind of the idea of like this has been happening for thousands of years before us.
Yeah,
like everything's going to be okay. And I think that kind of helped with just being kind of low key about it. But I mean, the credit, Bethany was definitely up more at night with the baby than I was initially.
Me too, dude. Dude, I was the worst. Like, I'm not a night person. And like, even like waking up in the middle of the night, my wife was like, dude, you sucked. Like, you sucked at it. Like, I remember one time, oh my gosh, my wife, like, God bless her, she totally cursed me out one time. She was like, it was like 3 a.m. and she totally did. But no,
that's a bad one. Yeah,
it was so like we look back on it, we kind of laugh on it now. Anyway, so like, and we actually like even like total bromance moment, Derek. Like even like when we visit you guys, we're like, man, Derek and I'm sure behind the scenes it's not as like picture perfect as we think or we see, but like my wife and I like we're more laid back now just because of like we understand how it goes and then when we see your family we're like, man, they're like super laid back. Like we kind of love that. Like I don't know, like
it's just experience, man. That's what it comes from having you'll get there. Get there. It's just experience. That's all it is.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Diapers. Like what was your first memory changing diapers or your
It was weird, man, because I'll tell you what, having like the daughter, it was weird because I'd never changed a little girl's diaper before. Like it was
same here.
At least that I had remembered. Like I was like, this is just strange I'll tell you, it was tough at first. Like I didn't like doing it. Now it's just more of a necessity because at one time we had the 2 kids in diapers and it's like, oh my gosh, what we gotta be better at this.
By the way.
I'll never forget though my favorite diaper changing moment. Well, there's 2. One was when I was Bethany was gone at work when I had Kateri, and I looked in her diaper. I'm like, what is that? It's a cross, and it was a cross, John. It was a legit like foam cross. I'm like, what? Is this a miracle? But what happened was she ate some arts and craft and it never broke down in her stomach. So she pooped out a cross. It was the weirdest thing.
That is weird.
And then my son, it was the funniest thing. My son waterboarded himself. It was the funniest thing. Like he just peed in his own face and he couldn't breathe. It was the funniest thing.
What? Oh my gosh.
It was just waterboarding. And like, I'm like, dude, that's why you don't pee while I'm trying to change you.
Yeah.
But oh man, you know how it is. You get good at it.
Yeah, you do. Then it just
like
becomes second nature. Yeah, it's crazy. Like one of my favorite moments, Derek, is like the first time I got peed on by my son. It was like in the hospital, and they were like, just a warning, like boys will pee on you once they hit that cold air. Like they'll totally pee on you. And it was just kind of like this second baptismal moment. It was just like get peed on. And then one time my son like peed in his mouth. It was crazy. It was like a fountain right in his mouth. I'm like, that's gross. What can you do?
That hasn't happened with me yet. My kids haven't gone to the bathroom on me. I've not gotten. That's probably gonna happen with this 4th one, but it hasn't happened yet.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Feeding. What was your experience with feeding? Because I know like there's a stigma. There's like a negative or positive stigma on breastfeeding or formula feeding, and like for us it's like, and I don't really want to get into that. Some of it's politics, some of it's just judgment, and we're not really about that. It's just like for us it's like, how do we keep our own baby alive and what's the best way to do that? Like what was that like for you guys? Like because again we had this plan. I remember just being like, we're gonna breastfeed the baby and we're gonna only do that and we're gonna we're not gonna do formula. And like for us it was like, now like back on it I'm like, okay, I was being stupid, because
you can't anticipate how life is gonna roll out at you if someone needs to go to work.
What was that like for you guys? Like
for us it was we were definitely pro breastfeeding and doing that.
Definitely.
So again, Bethany gets 100% of the credit with that, and then
I hope so.
With the rest of the feeding stuff, like with the we'd eventually progress towards a bottle, like we'll get 2% milk or something like that. Like Blaze still has his bottle before he goes to bed, and he has that. So like the feeding aspect of it, again, we try to introduce solid foods kind of earlier on. We follow the guidelines that we have to, like, don't give them honey products at this point, or this and that. And Bethany was really good for the nutritional things, just like really doing the research on that. And I will follow suit, like, okay, we're feeding them this, and that's what we're doing because you said so, honey. And that was like a lot of it because, again, you're out of your element with the breastfeeding stuff, man. You gotta just that's 100% honey. You're doing a great job. And so yeah, we're definitely. We've done good so far. They all lived, and
that's
we
awesome.
fed them enough.
Yeah. I mean, in a perfect world, I think we would have done that too. Like I said, like my wife, her supply was not there. Like a couple weeks later, you know, or like 2 weeks later, and so for us, just going to formula was a huge frustration, at least for me. Like not sticking to. It's weird, like saying that, like sticking to the plan. It's so weird to say that now, and for us, it's like. And then I remember when we had baby number 2, we were like, all right, let's do as breastfeeding as much as we can. We hope that supply stays good this time. But again, same thing as last time, and we were like, all right, it's not even a question. Let's just go to formula. And for us, it's
you gotta do what's working for your family. You
exactly.
know, just keep your kid alive. You gotta do whatever it takes.
Exactly. Bathing, dude. Dude, I gotta say, like, first time we bathed James, it was one of our moments where we looked at each other and just laughed. It was so
it is hilarious.
Hysterical, just because we were so scared, and we didn't know what we were doing. It was so dumb. It's like we treated this thing like it was nothing. We treated this baby like it was like a piece of glass furniture that we needed to like take care of. And looking back on it, it's like, oh my, what were we thinking? It was one of the first moments we actually like laughed really loud and just hysterically laughed. Like, what was bathing like for you? Like, what was the technique? What was the first time like that?
Well, you get that awesome little baby bath thing where they lay down and it, you know, the back's up. And that was good. And again, you're right. That's one of the key parenting moments is when you get to see this whole like little naked baby and you're bathing them and you're like, this is so cute.
Yeah.
Like, this is incredible. And then having bath time has been one of our like we do a lot of bath times. That's like part of the routine. Like we'll have all 3 kids together having the bath, and that's part of the routine. After a long day of playing outside, it was like, all right, bath time. So, you know, that's a big thing in our house. Like that just carried on where it's like, all right. And they, you know, it changed to getting them used to showers. They take showers as well. So, you know, again, that technique is the main thing is just making sure they don't drown. That was our main focus.
Yeah, definitely.
And once they made it through that, like, we started trusting them more in the water, and they got used to, you know, moving around. But that is one of the scary points, I think, of being a parent, because you're always afraid of them like drowning, and that is a legit concern. You have to make sure that water level is not too high, and you keep an eye on them. But because I think that's one of the more dangerous things that you have to deal with as, you know, a parent in the beginning. It's like the bathwater thing is really scary. So, but yeah.
Did you guys ever have like a small like little tub?
Yeah, just that one where it sits inside the bathtub and they just lay on it with the back.
When did you guys transition out of that? For Blaze, like, at least, or for any kid? Like
we had it for Kateri for a long time, but for Blaze, I don't know if we used it that much, because all of a sudden you get used to just propping them up with your hand, you know, and like they're in the bathtub, and you get them used to sitting. They weren't in it that long. Like, they've progressively gotten out of it faster.
Yeah, it's like the birthing thing.
Yeah.
We're still with it with James, just because like it's like his, like, he knows it, you know. But we were like wondering, like, when do we get out of it, you know? Because he can sit up by himself, but I'm worried about him going back or like trying to stand up. I have something like that.
We'll have like I'll film them sometimes just playing in there. We have some funny videos of like Avila slipping in there while she's playing with Kateri.
Oh my god!
And there's the immediate reaction. Like, these kids will react to be like, I have to get up and get oxygen. You know, like, they're really fast and they have great survival instincts. So I mean, early, I don't know. I'll have to ask Bethany, because she'll definitely remember that more. But it seemed like, I mean, our kids don't last in those things that long. We just, bath time, they just start swimming around and having fun in the bubbles. And we kind of move that thing as soon as we feel like they can kind of sit up and do stuff, as long as we're in there with them.
What's your moving on, just gotta move on, what's your thing on help? Because for us, I think we're very independent, my wife and I. Like, so when we first had James, if anyone wanted to come over, we would have them come over, especially during newborn bubble phase, and we would just, if they asked for help, like, we would be like, oh, can you get us food, or like, can you know, do this or do that for us. But even with family, like, family wants to help so much. But I know for you guys were in Virginia by yourselves, and so you kind of didn't have help. Did you when you were in the newborn stage, especially with Kateri, did you guys let people help you, or maybe when family because you guys weren't really with family, you know what I mean?
Yeah, family came down to visit, which was really nice. Towards the later births, Bethany's sister came and helped us like a few times, and you know, my mom or sister, they would come and help for the beginning thing, which was really good. We had, as you've had too, like, where you would have some maybe church community and stuff like that make meals. But it was nice to have. I really wish we can be closer to, my family. I just hate being far away because we don't get those opportunities as much.
Yep.
And then that was tough. But, we took any help that, was offered. But for the most part, it was like, we have to get through this because we're the ones that are going to be able to do this. But what was great about the community, they were willing to reach out whenever we asked for help. So that was good.
Very nice. Yeah. And I would say just real quick, like if any friends want to help you, don't have them hold the baby. Have them wash your dishes. Like it's so hard to ask for that. But like during that newborn phase, newborn bubble, you're like helpless. Like I remember, like we're better about it now because it's our second child, and we're better about like, all right, let's do this. Like, okay, you take both of them. But like I remember during our newborn, like with James, like we didn't even clean. We didn't do dishes for a while. We were using plastic and paper for a while. Like it was crazy. Like we were eating out all the time just because it was so crazy that time. But I would say like if people offered help, get them to help. See what they can bring to your house. Can you run to like Costco or can you run to the grocery store and get us this? We're out of like toilet paper or whatever, just like stuff like that. All right, Derek, you can help better with me or you can help me with me and other listeners with this better than I can tell other listeners. How did you adjust the other siblings to the new baby? Like without especially with Blaze, like your kids, Kateri and Avila, were a little bit older, so they could understand better. James didn't understand. It was like one moment that it was just us three. Next moment, there was a baby, and he didn't really understand it. He kind of had to accept it. Like, he was a little jealous at first, but now, dude, he loves her, absolutely loves her. Kisses her all the time, pats her all the time. Whenever she's crying, he'll go grab her binky or her pacifier and put it in her mouth. It's so cute. But for at least for you, like, how did you adjust the other siblings to the new baby?
You can only do so much, I think, as a parent, where you can tell them so much, and it's like, well, are they going to accept it or not? Because I mean, I think like a lot of parents, we're always saying like, when they see the pregnant belly, it's like, the baby's in there and you're going to be a big brother, big sister. And, you keep kind of talking about it. Like, that's the baby. And asking Blaze, we're like, where's the baby? He loves more than any of our other kids. Blaze loves this new baby. Like, he pets the tummy, like the baby, and he points and he has no idea what's coming. But at least when we're trying to explain, like, no, this is the baby now. Look at the little baby. I think that kind of stuff like just really helps that communication. We also had it where the baby would have a gift for, so for when the baby was born, like when Avila was born, Avila had a gift for Kateri, and so Kateri was like, oh, the new baby got me a gift. And so it was like kind of like this, it was a big sister bear in it, and she still loves it to this day. That's helped with the transition too. It's like the new baby, like, look, this is something you can remember your moment with your new sibling. So, and like the whole thing was like, we let them hold the baby at home and stuff like that. And like you said, I don't know, they learn really fast, man. Like for us, you call it binky, we call it a passy. Yeah. And like when that thing falls out, like some of the kids will be good. They'll do that. So I don't know, we just communicate and hopefully something sticks. I think that's what, what we've done for the adjustment. Sure.
Alone time with your spouse. Like it's so, like people always say.
What is that? What?
Yeah, I know.
Jeez.
Like we're like, we need to have date night. Should we have date night? You know what I mean? Like, and so for like, what was your experience, but also like advice on alone time with your spouse? Like, how important is it for you guys? Like, or is it not?
I think it's great to have, like, if you can get your schedules good for your kids for bedtime stuff, that helps a lot because you can have that evening to just kind of hang out together to talk. Like some of my favorite moments lately have just been when the kids are to bed and we're just chatting about stuff. You have like a beer and you're just like talking about stuff. And that was like really good to like return to those roots of when you first fell in love with this person. It's just conversations. And if you can get those times of like quiet times, also we like, our porch, you've seen it, like we try to have it like where we have the lights out there. So it's like we can go outside away from our kids, like when at bedtime. Get in, if you have family members or teenagers that can help babysit, take those opportunities to go out to like the movie sometime. Or if like maybe going to the batting cages is more of you and your spouse's style, go find something that you guys really love to do and do that. But, like we don't mind our kids that much and we try to make sure we're talking to each other while we have the kids. So the alone time is always a bonus. Like the day that, we had someone over here watching the kids. We got to see like the double showing. We got to go see La La Land, and then we got to see Split. And it's those moments like when you have those opportunities, take advantage. Go to the movie, do something like a little bit extraordinary, and maybe go watch another movie if your money can allow it for the sitter. But I know Bethany appreciates those like alone times, but even those minor times of just sitting down talking is a great way to just kind of fulfill that need.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. Like for us, it's like our kids are so young that we want to be with our kids. It's our kids aren't old enough to be like, let's leave them with the sitter. Like it's, I don't know if like it's like kids, right? Like it can't be an unhealthy attachment. You know what I mean? So for us, it's like we love being with our kids, but at any moment we're like, let's drop the kids off at the grandparents' house. Let's go watch a movie.
Yeah.
And I think just having that sprinkled in a little bit is good.
The one thing that we found out as parents, and this is something we wouldn't have known beforehand, Kateri did not like being away from us, so it made it difficult for us because we felt guilty because the babysitters would be like, oh, she was like, she was fine, and you could tell you're reading the vibe like, oh no, she was acting up. I can tell. When you have more than one kid, like all of a sudden they're buddies. Like Avila and Blaze are so chill at going to people's houses where when you drop off like a small gang of them, they're just like, we're together, so we're happy.
Yeah.
And it's easier to leave them when there's more. It's weird. It's easier to leave because they're comfortable with each other and they feel secure around each other. Whereas with just Kateri, she's like, you're all I know. You're all I have. And so having more kids was easier to kind of go places and do stuff because they're so much fun right now because they can play together. And it's amazing. That's one of my favorite things of being a parent so far is watching my kids talk and play together, like without me interfering at all. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That helps with the alone time too, where our backyard, it's a great time for the kids to go out, play, we can talk, and it's just fantastic.
That's awesome. We're so excited because, like, not on purpose, but our kids are so close in age that I just know when they get older, they're going to be so close, Derek.
Yeah.
They're going to be, like, best friends, and I'm excited for that time, which allows us to, have our time, you know what I mean? Like what you were saying. All right, so we're getting to the end here. Sorry, this is a longer episode. This is just kind of like an interesting topic we were talking about, but also we heard Derek's 20-minute Disneyland experience, which was awesome too.
Yeah.
But all right, so before we have two things to talk about. Do you remember any memory that comes up? So two memories or two things that you would say to the audience or listeners. What was one time that you felt really frustrated with your newborn, and then what was one time where you knew it was like the aha moment of, okay, being a father, like this is so worth it, because of that, or either because of that frustration or because of your memories or whatever. So,
and I think it's something that a lot of dads can relate to, but it was definitely with the sleeping aspect. That was so difficult to get her to go to sleep. That was so tough. And also when Bethany would go to work and like Kateri would just cry and I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm holding her and it gets you irritated. And then you're like, man, I'm a bad dad because I'm just like upset.
I'm with you, dude.
Like,
I bet you so many dads feel that way too, man.
Yeah. And what I've found out is that it's okay if the babies cry. Now, granted, when you're living in an apartment, you do feel like, oh my gosh, the neighbors are going to hate me. But if you don't have like that apartment experience, like, I mean, that's even something you can go to the neighbors like, look, I'm sorry, my kids, I'm a new dad. So they see the face to the crying that's going on and like, you're trying, and I think that was part of the reason why I would be stressed too, is because I'm like, man, I'm just like babies crying like all the time. But, it's okay if they cry. And I found that people don't care as much as I thought they did. And that was, I would say like the crying and not being able to get them to stop in the beginning, because I wasn't used to hearing a baby's cry.
Yep.
But now it's just like you're used to it. You're just like, are you dying? No, fine, you're good.
Yeah.
But that was, I think, the most frustrating. What about for you, John?
I think for me, I feel the same, exactly the same. I remember having a conversation with my brother-in-law about that too. With your first one, it's like a culture, and it's like it's like a world shock to you. You know what I mean? Like it was just the two of, it was really, I feel like men I feel like have this thing where we love our alone time. And even before we get married, we're used to that. And then we marry someone and that kind of goes away a little bit, but we still have it. But then when you have your first child, it kind of all goes away, Derek, especially during that newborn bubble phase. And for me, she's crying right now. It's awesome. I love it. And
on cue.
Love you, baby. For me, I remember just being like so selfish with my alone time, and I remember this one incident where, especially like my sleep, I like love to have my sleep. And I remember like James, waking up in the middle of the night, and I was like, all right, Like my wife's like, you have to get him. Like you have to get him. Like I've got him like the past like couple hours already. Like he's still crying. Like I need to get some sleep. It's your turn. You know, one of those things. And I remember getting him and just being like so frustrated that I had to wake up, had this bad mood, and like to a point where I yelled at my son, newborn son, dude. And then you feel like
it happens. It happens.
You feel like the worst dad. Like the second I did that, I was like, what am I doing? You know, I felt like just this terrible dad, this terrible person. And I hope that other dads can relate to me in that way of just kind of wanting that time to yourself. But then it's those moments where you kind of just realize like, okay, like I'm going to grow from this, you know, either I'm going to grow from this or this is going to get worse. And I don't want this to get worse. You know, it's like that instant regret you have of like even yelling at your children. Like my kids are so young that if I yell at them, they won't remember it, but I don't want that to become habit. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't want that to seep into their older years where if I do yell at them, like that's bad. You know, we're kind of like, we've had the establishment of like, we're not going to yell at our kids. You know, we're going to teach them about choice theory and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy. But I just remember like him being a newborn and me yelling at a newborn. Like, what am I doing? Like I'm yelling at a newborn, you know? And that I feel like I'll always remember that moment. Like, and James will never remember that, you know, which is great
until he listens to these podcasts.
But I just remember being so frustrated, you know.
I hear you 100%, and I'm for certain so many dads feel that same way. They have had that regret, and again, that's that transition of going from a single person to caring for a child that doesn't know any better.
But then for me, like my worth it moment, like it's obviously worth it, was actually like in the hospital, like him being born there, and my wife had just gone through this crazy 24-hour labor, and she had just gotten crazy like amounts of blood gone, so she had to get stitched up and everything. And by this time, she was so exhausted, and she saw her baby, and she's like, "I need to go to bed. I'm going to sleep." And I remember it was just me and James by ourselves. Like my wife is sleeping, so we're not really by ourselves, but technically by ourselves. Like we're awake. And I remember just carrying him in my arms. And again, I'll say this, like when you become a father for the first time, at least, this switch just comes on. It's like whatever you thought you couldn't do, you can do now, you know, with being a father. And I just remember holding him in my arms and just being like, okay, like I'm a father now. Well, I mean, I've always been a father, but you know, especially
that's a good moment.
For me, it's like that moment is like, this is worth it. You know, everything that I've gone through in my life, all the hardships, you know, everything that I was scared of, you know, everything that I'm going to go through, this is worth it. This is the moment that it's worth it, you know? And so I remember carrying him in my arms, just being like, you're worth it, you know? And so that was my kind of worth it moment. Beautiful. What was your kind of worth it moment, you know?
And I these things keep changing a little bit because once your kid gets older, they give you these new moments of like, this is my favorite time, whether it be like, I don't know, just times where you're proud of them for doing something, or like, you know, Kateri just started riding her 2-wheel bike. You know, it's like those moments where it's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, this is what you hear about.
And it's cool to see that it keeps coming back. That worth it moment. That's cool.
No, exactly. There's always new moments. Like, I'm proud of my oldest, you know, from going from this kid that I was so annoyed with early on to all of a sudden she's sitting on the front with me at Splash Mountain, or she's riding a bike. Like, I'm so proud of her, and to see that. And the other thing, like, kind of like a weird worth it moment is now that after Kateri and the struggles that I had, similar to you with stuff, the bedtime schedule, like I'll tell my son Blaze, I'm like, all right, buddy, it's bedtime, get upstairs. And he'll walk himself up the stairs, wait at the side of the crib. I'll pick him up, put him in, like, good night, I love you. And then that's it. And you find that balance of like being firm, but still being loving. Yeah. And that was something that I didn't know. And I'm proud of myself for going through that stuff to finally start to feel that, like, okay, I know what to do here. And then I feel like I have a better relationship with my kids because they're sleeping well. I'm not frustrated with them. And it's like, you feel like you have learned something, and you've experienced something enough to better yourself and your family. And that's when it's like, yeah, this is where it's good. That's a great thing about being a parent. You're going to be given a lot of difficult things, but also a lot of times you're like, yeah, that's really awesome. And like we were saying before, taking those pictures and reminders on Time Hop of like, there's all these reminders constantly of like, yeah, this is worth it. You know, it's a beautiful thing.
Sure, man, that's awesome and beautiful. Like, that's part of that growth process too. Like, don't expect that you're going to be the best father day one. You know what I mean? It's kind of just growing each day and taking. I would say even taking.
Survive. You just gotta survive.
Like, and just take each day one. Like, you can't think a weekend ahead with a baby. You have to just take each day one at a time, you know? All right, last but not least, I know this is a longer episode. Thank you for, I hope this episode is worth it listening. Thank you so much for listening this far. Derek, you're probably a pro at this more than me. Newborn's a lot of work. How do you find taking kids? We talked about this earlier, and I wanted to get to this now, especially this being a Catholic podcast. How do you find taking your kids, what was your memory taking a newborn to church for the first time, but also even taking kids now, like having toddlers and having children, how taking your kids to church, but also teaching them what prayer is and how praying with them and stuff like that.
Like initially and quickly, first time we brought the baby to church, I remember exactly where we were sitting at St. Andrews. I just remember feeling like I was holding my breath the whole time because, again, it was like, I don't want to offend people. I want people to be able to worship and not worry about my baby. I was like so sensitive for that, and I was like so on edge. She like slept the whole time.
Same here.
And it made it. I mean, maybe that was one of God's gifts in knowing that I was very upset, and it's like, let me calm you down a little bit, my son. You know, and like, this is what you get, and that was, you know, and that started easing it up. The one difference is like, and now I'm on sabbatical right now for playing in the church choir for guitar.
Okay.
Bethany a lot of times would have to have the kids. She would be up in the choir loft near where we would be playing, you know, instruments and stuff. But she would be with the kids, and we had. Luckily, if you keep going to church at your regular schedule, you start having friends around in the pews that you usually go, and they help with the kids. And we have some church friends that are so helpful with, like, Avril will go sit with them right behind the pew, and it's like it feels like a family kind of setup where they'll help when I'm not able to be there and help with stuff. But what's great, like during like a lot of the, you know, times when I'm not playing music, I'll go sit with Bethany and the kids, and they'll be with me. And there'll be times too, like when the baby's first born, I'm not playing. I'm like, that's why I'm so happy to be on leave right now to focus in and helping Bethany with stuff. But just to sit with your family and church, and it has to be a priority in your family. You can't just all of a sudden like think that they're going to be good when you don't go to mass for like 2 years. You know, like They have to learn and know like, okay, church is going to be a little bit longer. It's not what I'm used to. But like bringing like some cereals and some like religious books for them to look at while they're there has helped a lot. And just like I said, when we went to Florida and we went to mass, like my family was sitting in another pew, and my, you know, my personal family, Bethany and my kids, we were sitting apart from mine. When we were just sitting as a little family unit, they were so well behaved. And I was really proud of them because there was a lot of like older parishioners there, and I was so proud of my kids just for like being super good, and I'd hold them. And I mean, it's just that consistency of like, okay, you try to sing the songs, and like you could sing along too, and they'll sing gibberish, but you'll be surprised at how much it lightens people up around you. Like even kids making noise, like people are okay with it. And that's what I've learned. It's like, it's okay. Like it's not going to offend people as much as I thought it was going to. And that really helped me with the whole church process. What about for you, John, and the first time that you had gone?
Yeah, I remember, dude, I think we were the same. Like I remember just praying, literally in the church, like, please, please, please stay asleep. Please stay asleep. And it was like he was in his car seat and he slept the whole time.
Yeah, same thing.
And and I remember just being so scared going into it, like, man, I really hope if he cries, it's game. Like the whole church is gonna hear, and like we're never gonna be welcomed back again. You know what I mean?
Excommunicated right there.
Yeah, exactly. And like, but I would, and like now, now with Lucy, it's like if she cries, we'll take her to the back, and and we'll calm down and bring her back in. It's just like this. Like, what were we scared of? You know what I mean? Like,
well, and having a viewpoint from the back of the church, it's like such a cool thing. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, during this homily, like it's kind of cool to be in the back to see what else is going on with other parents, and you see like
all the parents,
the struggles they're going through. It. There's
so
many interesting things that happen.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like I remember, like at our church, like there's so many young families, and we love it. That's kind of the reason why we like going to this church, because there's so many babies there, and everyone just understands where everyone's at. And like when you go to the back, like there's all the parents, all the kids are running around in the back, and all the parents are like chasing them down, trying to pray at the same time. It's pretty awesome. But no, like same thing, and and I would just say, like, if you need to go to the back, like just go to the back. There's nothing, like there's no, don't be embarrassed. If your kid's making noise, don't be embarrassed, because like if you look at it from someone else's point of view, I don't think they think like that.
Like, no, but
the majority of people, you think they think like that, but I think the majority of people are just like, oh, it's a baby crying, like,
yeah,
that's it, and so that's what I would say. And like even being in the back, if you have to go to the back, it's cool too. But for me, it's like I'm going to the back, but my intention is not to stay back there. It's always calm them down and come back in. So you
shouldn't be just leaving or playing stuff on your phone. Like, yes, I gotta go to the back.
Yes, free pass. I get to go to the back, right? Like, yeah. So, well, that's all I have, Derek. Anything else, Derek, about advice or anything with newborns?
No, I mean, I think a lot of it is just, look, you're gonna go through ups and downs, and you just need to survive that first kid. And once you do that, it gets easier, and people are going to be supportive of you. They're not going to care as much as you think they care. And,
sure.
Just keep that communication open with your spouse. And if you're frustrated, just like let them, it's a good talking point for stuff.
Sure.
And, it's been great, John, seeing you go through like this stuff, like just recently, to see you with your first and now like your second. And it is cool to see how you start getting just really laid back and you start understanding it better.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. Like the whole parenthood thing, like it's quite a cool brotherhood we have of fathers,
Definitely.
all together, where,
Definitely.
you see another dad at the back of mass and you just like, tilt your head and like, yo, I hear you.
Yeah, the head nod. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you, man. Fatherhood is like, it's totally different from motherhood, but it's also like, you're in it together with your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like two things, like, I would just reverberate what you say, like, just survive that newborn bubble. Like that newborn bubble is one of the hardest things you'll ever go through, especially if that first one, like, just because you don't know what you're doing as much as you do. And just like, if you can just survive that and just know that you'll survive it. Like, it's not the end of the world that your kid's crying at 3 a.m. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world if your kid is so hungry that she's waking up the neighbor or he's waking up the neighbors. You're gonna survive it, and you're gonna take it one day at a time. And the other thing is, guys, like, for all the Catholic dads who are out there, like, hit us up. Like, do you have advice that maybe we didn't mention, or what was your kind of favorite memories of that newborn bubble stage that you guys went through? Hit us up on Twitter, and we'd love to read them on air maybe next week or something like that. So all right, I think that's it for the episode. Shout outs, Derek. I want to shout out two people, or a couple people. Housetop Tees, I want to shout them out. They're a Catholic t-shirt company. I was wearing their shirt this week, and I posted it and tagged them, and then they reposted it on their Instagram.
Nice.
So shout out to them. I want to shout out a Catholic YouTube couple they're called That Catholic Couple. They're called the Glazes, Derek. I think you'll appreciate them. Their thing is actually like they're all about donuts too. Like, they're all about because they're called the Glazes. They're all about the donuts. So shout out to them. They shouted Bad Catholic Dads on their YouTube channel. Did
they really?
They got a pretty good amount of followers, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then I just want to shout out any new and old followers and listeners on here, because we've gotten a lot of new followers on our social media. But also, I definitely want to shout out our old followers. Know that we see you and we're listening to you. And of course, it wouldn't be a Bad Catholic episode without shouting out our wives. So shout out to our wives too.
Yeah, for sure.
Any shout outs for Florida or anything like that?
I think shout out to the mom and mother-in-law that have been listening to the episodes. It's such a cool hip thing that they're doing, listening to
awesome,
podcasts. Man. So I give them a lot of credit because I enjoy the feedback that they're giving me. So it's been really awesome. So, and then shout out to everyone and Disney and Universal, man. It was a great time. Thanks for not making me feel like a bad parent at all.
All right, awesome. iTunes review. No iTunes review. I know you're listening to this. The last iTunes review we had was April 27th, Derek. We need to get some new iTunes reviews in.
We don't have enough time for this episode. I have to tell you about this one possible iTunes. They almost left a review, and they told me, like, I'll have to
come on, do it.
It was funny. I was talking to this one guy, and he was like, I was gonna leave a 1-star review. I was like, what are you gonna leave a 1-star review?
Oh no, don't do that. I'm just kidding.
And he was like, I was gonna leave it because John wouldn't watch. He made it all the way through that 13 Reasons Why show, and he couldn't watch that last moment.
So
He's
funny.
like, I was gonna give him 1 star.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I was like, no, man, don't. I'm like, give us a 5-star.
Give 5-star and then leave that one in.
Yeah, then leave the criticism. But it was funny. Yeah, I love those reviews, man.
Dude, we need some good reviews. We need some reviews. Leave us a review. You can leave us on iTunes or the iTunes app if you have the podcast app on iTunes. You just go click on the reviews, leave us review, leave us 5 stars. Make sure it's 5 stars. We don't accept anything less than that. I'm just kidding. But no, literally, give us review. Like, if it's anything, like, we just love to see them, and it really helps the podcast out. Follow us on YouTube. Follow this podcast on YouTube, iOS, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Derek, shout out to Derek, putting both the last 2 episodes on YouTube right when he came back. I can't believe he did that. That was awesome.
Well, shout out to you, John, for actually when I was gone, you were able to just put stuff together that we had worked on. It was really awesome to just see, when I was gone, I was like, oh. It was cool to hear from my mother-in-law about a podcast that I didn't know had gone up because you were doing it. So good job for you, because she saw it. I was like, oh, that's so cool that you heard it. He got it out there right on time.
Which
like you
one?
said, 9 o'clock, man.
Oh yeah. I almost forgot about it because I've been on paternal leave and I've just been being with my kids and I'm like, oh crap, It's 8:50. I got to get this on. But luckily I've just been doing it early and just hitting a button. And then all the social media stuff I hate. But anyway, speaking of social media, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up on there. If you want to support this podcast or if you like anything we do, guys, check out our Patreon. You can at least find out what we're about and what this podcast is about, kind of the in-depth of who we are and why we're doing this. Patreon.com/badcatholicdads. You can get a lot of rewards there. For $3, you get the vlog, but, if anything helps. And then, of course, just follow Derek at the Derek, either the Derek Rogers, THEDREK no D ERS. So, and then you can follow me at John Perez on Twitter. Hit us up, leave us anything, questions, comments, concerns. We would love to shout you out on the podcast. And with that has been episode number 12. I'm calling it the Bad Catholic Guide to Popping the Newborn Bubble. So thank you, and we will catch you guys next week.
Peace out.
God bless, and have a great week. Bye.